everyone. That was such calming music this time. And I think that goes in with the whole vibe of this session. Good evening and welcome to the second session of the JDRF 2024 Type 1 Nation Summit. My name is Jordan Robinson, your host, and I'd like to thank you all for joining us this evening. Some of you may know I'm a sports journalist and a podcast host specializing in women's basketball and sports. I was diagnosed with T1D at 23 years old, and I've been playing basketball since I was 5. I played in college, and now I get to talk about basketball for a job, so it's pretty cool. Tonight is the second session of our 4-part virtual summit series titled The Mind Body Connection: How Prioritizing Mental Health and Body Wellness Can Impact T1D. I'm so excited. In recognition of Mental Health Awareness Month, we will feature a leading expert providing practical tips on T1D, mental health, and overall wellness, along with community members sharing their experiences. The Type 1 Nation Summit program offers education, connection, and inspiration on various important topics to help you and your loved ones live well with T1D. So throughout the year, we'll host these virtual sessions like tonight and many in-person summit events hosted by JDRF chapters across the country. Please register if you'd like to stay up to date on our virtual series. We'll post a link in the chat. You can also visit the same link to find out an in-person Type 1 Nation Summit event near you. They're so much fun. Before we get started, I'd like to extend a special thank you to our national industry partners. Their support makes the Type 1 Nation Summit program possible. There are many options available to you or your loved ones to manage and ease the daily burden of T1D. JDRF does not endorse any specific product or brand and would encourage you to visit jdrf.org to learn more about all the options available to you and your family. We also encourage you to speak with your healthcare provider to discuss the options and a treatment plan that would work best for you and your loved one. Now, without further ado, you're in for such a treat. I say this every time because it is true. We got an all-star lineup for you. So if you haven't already done so, please share the link to this session. Tell your friends, your family, your community to tune in. Feel free to comment too. Ask questions in the chat. We'll try to get to as many as possible, but we'll also be posting resources in there throughout the discussion. It's popping in there always. So make sure to check out the chat. We have so much to cover, so let's jump right in and introduce our very first guest. Madison Carter is a broadcast journalist and investigative reporter. She received international recognition for her extensive reporting following the civil unrest that emerged after George Floyd's murder. The Buffalo News named her News Personality of the Year, and the NAACP recognized her for being a critical voice for people of color and using her platform to push the envelope in the criminal justice system. Madison has lived with T1D for more than 25 years and advocates for her greater access to affordable insulin and medical supplies. Her commitment to this cause has led her to take on a new role as a board member of the JDRF North Carolina chapter. Additionally, Madison serves as an executive officer for the National Association for Black Journalists, further demonstrating her dedication to making a positive impact in both the diabetes community and the field of journalism. Madison will be sharing T1D news and our community during each session. We are so fortunate to have her share her incredible talent and expertise this year. Ladies and gentlemen, please show a warm welcome to Madison Carter.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who was at our first Ton Summit, virtual summit. They're going to get tired of hearing my bio, so I'm going to start giving y'all the condensed version. But Jordan, thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here, especially because the topic I get to talk to you guys about tonight is mental health. We are in Mental Health Awareness Month, and when it comes to diabetes, we all know how difficult it can be. Before we came to stage, all of us who you're going to be talking with tonight were talking about when we were diagnosed, and I found out that I was diagnosed September 30th, 25 years ago. And my blood sugar, my mom showed me the paperwork because I said, "You're kidding." My blood sugar was 2013. The doctor said to me, there is no way she's alive. That number 8, they couldn't even read it. I remember they couldn't read it, but we have come so far with technology since then. And that's something we're going to be talking about. But I do want to talk to you guys about mental health when it comes to diabetes, especially because we all know I've been doing this now for several decades, right? It's so important to learn how to cope with all of our feelings because a lot of times we can be feeling a lot of distress, a lot of worry. That B word, burnout, yes, that is when you need to start talking to people, especially your healthcare team, right? So first, I want to just talk about, there's a name for this. It is called diabetes distress, and there's a whole definition. This is defined as just what I said, a range of emotional responses to living with and also having to manage your diabetes. This could manifest in things like being overwhelmed with the burden of having to do this every single day. It could be fear and worry about what could come from complications or things progressing if your blood sugars aren't going the right direction or too high for too long, if you're feeling defeated, discouraged, burned out. We all know what this feels like, whether you've been diagnosed for less than a year or for more than 2 decades. It's really hard when you feel like you're not meeting your goals when we know how unpredictable diabetes is and can be every single day. So the number one thing you're going to hear me say probably 22 times is that it is normal. Everyone experiences this no matter who they have on their team or how they manage their diabetes. It's a problem that affects a third to a half of all adults. And those are just the stats. Those are just people who submitted to research. I would venture, I'm not a scientist, but I would venture to say this actually impacts every single person living with diabetes. So I'm gonna go ahead and add my stat to that number. So, okay, we talked about the problem, but you guys know every time I come on here, I'm gonna be here to give you some solutions. Let's start with point number 1. Acknowledge it. It's normal. Like I said, sometimes things are going well, sometimes they're not. Everybody has a good day, everyone has a bad day, and usually we have both multiple times a day. But when you start to feel these things, just feel it. It's okay. You have to wake up tomorrow. You're gonna have to work. We all know we have to work to wake up the next day, but you have to do it again. So just feel what you need to feel. Something I like to do is I'll set a time limit for myself. If I need to feel bad for myself, I'll say, all right, I got from 6 to 9 to feel bad for myself, and then we got to get up and we got to keep going. Point number 2 that I have for you is be sure that you're talking with your diabetes care team, right? Especially if things you feel like they're not going well for a really long period of time. Get help. Your doctor, your nurse, your diabetes educator, psychologist, if you have one, a social worker, if you have one that's helping you navigate, especially a lot of financial challenges that come with this. It's really important to treat this, especially if it's going on for a long time. Like I said, set a little bit of time for yourself, right? Feel your distress and feel it good. But if it's going, maybe into week 2 or week 3, that's when I think we're getting out of the normal period. That's where we need to get into the treatment period, and talking to your diabetes team, getting some education, getting some help, getting that next person that you can talk to is important. And that takes me right to point number 3. Outside of your diabetes care team, make sure you have a personal team, your personal board of directors, your family, your friends, people who you can talk to about how you're feeling, people that will validate your feelings. I know a lot of times, I just had this experience, when you're talking to a mom or a dad, they're scared, they're worried. So you don't often want to tell them exactly how you're feeling or what may be going on. So this is terrible, but I just recently, as a full-grown adult, started getting a lot more friends in the diabetes community. And that has changed my mental health so very much, because when I call them and tell them how I'm feeling, they understand it. It's normal. It's not scary to them because they're going through it too, or they just had gone through it. So make sure you have a really, really good team, family and friends, people who get it. Next, you want to set realistic expectations for yourself. Okay. Like I said, set a period of time. It's overwhelming. Take it one day at a time, or 1 hour, or 1 minute. Small, doable, digestible steps can really help to improve this. Okay. You can't do it all at once, but maybe do some metrics like, my goal for tomorrow is just to check my blood sugar 4 times a day. I don't care what it says. I just want to make sure I'm checking it. Okay. Or the next day, maybe I'm going to go walk 10 minutes a day, 2 times a week. That is it. If you can achieve that one goal, it'll give you the confidence to reach the next one. And then last one, this is something I have been doing a lot lately for the first time in my life, but take time to do things that you enjoy. Reward yourself. You had a great week. Go out. Go watch a movie, go on a hike, play a game. What do? I buy myself another book, and then that leads to me buying another one, and then I have 7. But you know what? Like I said, it's a snowball effect, okay? You get one thing and you keep going. So those are my 5 tips to help with mental health. It's something that I'm super passionate about. It's something that I've struggled with a lot. I remember the lowest of lows when I laid on the bathroom floor for 3 days and decided not to be diabetic so my mom could come be diabetic for me. Or sometimes it's just 3 hours sitting in my favorite bathroom stall at work. Not for 3 hours. They might be concerned, but you get my drift. All right. And there's another thing I want to talk to you guys about today when we are talking about tips. It is Healthy Vision Month. This is really important. Schedule your annual eye exam. I hope you did it last year when you scheduled your eye exam. And remember, for a lot of people, this may be under your medical insurance, right? A diabetic eye exam. So we really encourage you to be proactive about your eye health. We are type 1 diabetics, we are at much higher risk of developing eye disease, diabetic retinopathy. That, of course, can lead to vision loss and blindness. And it occurs in truly more than half of people who are living with diabetes. So when we say be proactive, get ahead of this, okay? Anyone living with diabetes, including type 1, type 2, gestational, can develop diabetic retinopathy. But early detection of any of these diseases and timely treatment, they can reduce the risk of blindness by over 95%. That is why I never miss a diabetic eye exam. I have a picture of the back of my eyeball because last year they were concerned I was having a hard time. Like I said, we all do this. And my numbers weren't great for a long time. And they said that they were concerned, that early detection we talked about. So that really kicked me into gear. I got things together. And now I have a picture that's on my wall of the back of my eyeball. And it looks really, really cool. And it's healthy again. So I'm speaking about all of these things from experience. Go early, treat it early. And then lastly, before I go, I know you're probably tired of hearing my voice. I'm going to get you back to Jordan. I just want to talk really quickly about Clinical Trials Month. There's a lot of months, okay? I'm waiting for like National Shopping or Vacation Month, and I'd be happy to talk to you about how diabetes relates to that. So let me put that on the list. But it is Clinical Trials Month. Last thing, really want people to get out there. There are about 300 clinical trials happening right now to help prevent, cure, treat type 1 diabetes. JDRF is hoping that, of course, ultimately these trials will lead to cures for type 1 diabetes one day. So if you take part in the trials, they not only play a more active role in your own healthcare, right? You can get access to some things maybe a little bit earlier, but experimental treatments, and you can help others by contributing to medical research. As a Black woman, I think that this is really important, especially talking to my own community. Black and brown people often do not participate in clinical trials. Therefore, when this research comes out, it doesn't apply to communities, minority communities. So I really, really want to encourage us, people who look like me, to participate. We need to make sure that the medical information that's coming out applies to everybody, okay? On the bottom of the screen here, you can see a link to more information. And then, of course, clinical research means that there are a lot of unknowns and risks that varies considerably with these studies. So it's vital. It is so vital that you ask a lot of questions. You are fully informed before you consent to participate. But please, we are asking you to ask the questions, do the research. If this one doesn't work for you, maybe try another one. Again, getting early access to some of these treatments. I have done many, many stories with families who participated in trials. Tzield is something you'll hear us talk about a lot. JDRF put a lot of money toward the development of that drug, which helps to delay the onset of type 1 diabetes with early detection. That is another key word you're going to hear us talk about a lot. So I just want to thank you all so much for giving me the time and the space to share all of those things with you. If I could just go back to the top, up to the top again, mental health is so, so important. Get your team around you. Make sure you're doing what you need to do and giving yourself the space. With that, I am going to turn things back over to our wonderful host, Jordan. And of course, you saw the link. We'll post a link for you for more information on the JDRF website. And I'll see you next time.
Wow, thank you, Madison. That was awesome. I love the tip of setting a timer because if I don't set that timer, it might go into a few hours, a day, 2 days. It's okay. Set the timer and then you're allowed to be all in your feelings and then get over it. That's such a good tip. Thank you, Madison. I really appreciate you. we're going to keep moving right along here. That was such good information, and we're going to get some more. Our next guest is Dr. Ashley Butler. She is a fellowship trained pediatric psychologist and an associate professor in the Department of Pediatrics at Baylor College of Medicine in the Texas Medical Center in Houston. Her practice is focused on early intervention and treatment of preschoolers and pediatric patients with mental health diagnosis, including ADHD, anxiety, behavioral problems, and learning disorders. Dr. Butler earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology from Dillard University in New Orleans and a Master of Science and a PhD in clinical psychology from the University of Florida. She completed her clinical child pediatric psychology internship at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia in Pennsylvania after graduation. She completed a postdoctoral research fellowship and a postdoctoral clinical fellowship at Baylor College of Medicine in Houston, Texas. She's really smart, you guys, I promise. She's earned several recognitions. She serves as a principal investigator on National Institutes of Health sponsored research projects and has been accredited with numerous peer-reviewed articles and published abstracts. Please join me and welcome Dr. Ashley Butler.
Hi, everyone. That was amazing. I was almost like, who are you talking about there? But
we're talking about you and everything that you have done. Well, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I feel like this is a perfect segue into everything that Madison was talking about. And I just want to get your expertise. And I want to start with some background, if you will. Can you provide some background on some of the research you've done on the psychosocial aspects of type 1 diabetes?
Yes. So everyone, yes, I've been doing research in this space of mental health and type 1 diabetes for about the last 10 years. And I would say my work has really focused in two areas. One, focusing on trying to understand things that can help promote healthy mental well-being, primarily for youth and their families living with type 1. And then also really developing interventions or programming that takes the information that we learn from, what helps people live well, translating that into interventions, and with a specific focus on racial and ethnic minority youth, as well as youth from, limited economic resource backgrounds.
Yeah. And as you're doing that research, what type of themes have you identified in your practice with T1D youth and their families?
Sure. I think one of the major themes that comes out time and time again is really the importance of social support for protecting mental health and protecting mental well-being. Thinking about the various aspects of social support. So kind of the emotional aspect. So how do people support you in a way that helps you boost your emotional well-being? But also support also includes the tangible things that people can do to help alleviate stress and to help focus on living well with the day-to-day management of diabetes.
Well, you mentioned the support, and I'm sure there's people watching who have T1D themselves, but also love someone with
Mhm.
T1D. So how can family members and friends best support their loved ones with T1D?
I would say one is just really, keep in mind that you can check in on how they're doing. You can ask questions about how they're feeling emotionally, and ask questions about if they're feeling a lot of stress, what can you do to help support them? And like I mentioned, sometimes uh, support is really more emotional, meaning that you could give words of encouragement when you notice that they're being a rock star, with regard to anything in life, with regard to their day-to-day management. Maybe they're doing all the things, but we all know that sometimes you could do all the things and still not reach the goals that you maybe set for yourself. But being able to give positive words of affirmation about what you do see them doing well with regard to day-to-day management, checking in, like I said, checking in on how they're doing emotionally, and then also asking about those ways that you might be able to provide tangible support. So a lot of times, I know Madison talked a lot about distress and burnout. That is real and true and happens with a lot of people living with type 1. And you could ask, how can I provide tangible support? Sometimes that support comes in the form of what can I do to help alleviate some of the things that you're doing day to day with type 1 diabetes? So, can I help you think about the supplies that you need? Can I really sit down with you and help you order the things that you need? Or is it I'm helping you providing you with tangible support outside of the diabetes space? Can I take some of the things off of the to-do list for you? Can I go to the grocery store for you?
Mm.
Can I help you with some of those other things that may be outside of diabetes, but still can help eliminate the stress that that person is feeling?
Well, we mentioned it, the dreaded B word, the burnout. What are some of the barriers that lead to T1D burnout? Because we've all been there and it is
Mhm.
so, so real, like you mentioned. So, what are some of the things that kind of lead to that stress?
There's a number of different things, and I think it's still, one of the key things is that it lies in the space of the support. So sometimes when there's lower support happening in that person's circle, that we see that burnout tends to rise a bit. And I like to think about burnout in kind of thinking about it on in three different ways, like a stoplight. So sometimes you
Mm.
have where things are on green, there's no burnout at all, right? There's I'm able to do engage in my diabetes management day to day, and I'm feeling okay about it. I'm feeling good about it. Then burnout can also start to creep into the yellow zone where someone is starting to feel it's starting to kind of creep in. Maybe there are some negative feelings around the day-to-day management of diabetes, and then it could go all the way into the red zone, kind of like I
Mhm.
think Madison mentioned, like feeling like I'm going to lie on the floor. I don't want to do anything. I don't have diabetes. I don't want to do anything related to diabetes management.
Yeah.
And so that's when, we know we're in the red zone. But oftentimes it can kind of creep in going from that red or that green to yellow to red when there's not a lot of support happening.
Mhm. I love the visual of the stoplight. I think that's also just a good question for family and friends to ask. Like, what color
Mhm.
are you at right now? Are
Absolutely.
you green, yellow, or red? I love that. And also, we talked about the family and friend support, but what role do healthcare providers play in supporting your T1D journey?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think now more and more with just the greater attention to mental health and mental well-being that I think was sparked by the pandemic, that we do see healthcare providers asking a lot of more questions with their patients. They're asking, how are you doing emotionally? They're asking, are you feeling sad? Are you feeling a lot of worry? Are you feeling a lot of anxiety? And they're able to have those conversations and help give tips or
Mhm.
really make referrals to a more mental health specialist if that's needed. If there's a psychologist on board with the team, or they have a psychologist that they can refer individuals to, that could also take place. So I think there's a lot of, there's more conversations happening with healthcare providers. And then there also could be just they could ask the questions, or they could also use what we call kind of screening tools or questionnaires
Mm.
that people can fill out to help indicate if they are having mental health challenges at that time.
That's so good. And I think of, just being in therapy myself, there are other areas in your life where, if I have anxiety, there's different behavioral health techniques that you need to do, mindfulness or cognitive behavioral therapies. How does that benefit those with T1D?
It is very beneficial. So, cognitive behavioral therapy or mindful techniques, like what you're mentioning, it really helps to think about the connection between what we're thinking about, how we're feeling emotionally. Are we feeling sad? Are we feeling anxious? Do we not want to engage in the things that we normally want to engage in?
Mhm.
The connection between our thoughts, our feelings, and our behaviors. So the behaviors, oftentimes we think about with type 1 diabetes is that, that I have been someone who's really engaged in the type 1 community, and I start to kind of back away and not really want to engage anymore. Or is it that I'm not wanting to do the day-to-day things that are required for type 1 diabetes management? So cognitive behavioral therapy helps you kind of think about the connection between those things, especially the thoughts that you're thinking, and how oftentimes what we're thinking can affect those negative emotions or those behaviors that don't promote emotional well-being or social well-being or physical well-being, and helps to kind of think through how can we, shape our thoughts in a way that promotes more healthy feelings and healthy behaviors.
Hmm. One last question before we take a few questions from the audience. We talked about the stoplight, right? And if you don't actually say I'm at red, what are some key stress indicators that T1D parents can kind of look out for
Mhm,
to
mhm.
know, okay, I've done everything I could do. Now we need to seek professional help.
Mhm. It is oftentimes, not wanting to do, maybe there's a change of how they're engaging in type 1 diabetes management. That could be an indicator. It could be a lot of irritability around diabetes, a lot of negative statements that are, being made with regard to type 1. I hate diabetes. I hate having diabetes. Oftentimes younger folks will express themselves in that way.
Mhm.
But also feeling, there could be feelings of sadness. I think I mentioned too before, there could be withdrawal from friends or family or the things that they typically enjoy. They just don't want to do those things anymore. So if they love playing sports, or they loved playing musical instrument, or just playing outside with friends or hanging out with friends, and they stop wanting to do those things, those could be signs that, really it's important to seek out a mental health provider.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Ashley. We're not done with you just yet. We're going to get some questions in the chat, but where can we find you online if we want to follow your journey, see if you're going to get another degree or, get some more schooling? Where can we keep following you?
So you can find me on LinkedIn, Ashley Butler. I'm there on LinkedIn, and you can also find me on Twitter.
Awesome. Well, we will do that. Okay, let's see what our chat has cooked up. Let's see. The first question we have: how could peers elevate mood? I think that's a good question.
I think like there's a couple of things. One is, I always like to say, really, being able to encourage what's going well. So as you're observing your friend, as you're observing your peer, being able to notice the things that they are doing well with regard to taking care of themselves with diabetes. Like, just like earlier, I think Madison said, if you set a goal for yourself, okay, I'm going to check 4 times a day. Like, if you check in with them and they're doing that, being able to say, hey, it's difficult, and
Yeah.
you were able to do that. You still did that. You're having a tough day and you were still able to do that. Being able
Mhm.
to find the positive things that are happening, and just that verbal encouragement is often very, very beneficial and often helpful.
And the peers who are T1D, it's
Absolutely.
sometimes just elevates your mood just being around someone that you don't have to explain everything to, and that just always feel when I leave a group of other T1Ds, I'm like, I'm not
Mhm.
alone. I
Mhm.
can, like, take a deep breath. So that's I feel like that also goes into exactly what you were talking about.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
love it. Okay, we have another question here. How can I, as a parent, support my child's emotion when it comes to T1D while also dealing with my own? It's a big
Mm.
one.
And it's almost like, I know you'll probably always hear that statement of, like, when you're on the airplane and you have to, take care of yourself, put your mask on
Mm,
first before
mhm.
you support your child. I love that you recognize the importance of attending to your own, distress and your own mental well-being, and how that's connected to being able to support your child. So I would encourage that, even those questions that I said, green, yellow, and red, it's important for parents to seek that in of themselves. Like, where are they at
Mhm.
with regard to burnout? Because burnout often also happens for parents too.
Mhm.
And getting the support that you need for yourself, whether that is connecting with your friends, connecting with your family, your support team, or your board of support people, or seeking even, mental health provider support for your own mental well-being, is important too, to be able to support your child. I think that's the first step. And then two, I say it's helpful, to make mental health a regular conversation that you're having with your child. So it's not just that you're asking questions about how they're doing emotionally when things seem to not go well, but also just to have these regular check-in periods. You can use that stoplight as an anchor to ask the question. So you could check in with yourself, with your child monthly, to ask those questions, and then ask, are there more things that I could do to support you? Or if it's to a point where they are in the red zone and it would be helpful to connect with a mental health professional, you could support your child in talking with their healthcare, their diabetes team around that also.
Okay, last one. That was so good. Teenagers.
Mm.
That's a whole topic on itself.
Yes, it
but
is.
Any tips helping teenagers get more comfortable talking about their emotions around T1D? That is such a good question.
I think, we talked about it a little bit, but connecting to community. I mean, oftentimes, I see connecting with other teens who are experiencing the same thing, so that they, that feeling, oftentimes that feeling of no one understands or feeling alone with diabetes is a very real thing, and that starts to really come up around that age period. And so being able to connect to community where the conversations can flow easily because there's others who are experiencing the same thing, that could be very helpful.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for pouring your knowledge into us, and thank you for being here. Thanks for your
Having
time.
me. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. When you just feel smarter by talking with someone else, that's Dr. Ashley. I feel smarter. I know more. Thank you for being here. We're going to keep rolling. We have a few more guests to introduce. Let me get their bios pulled up. I'm so excited. We have two exceptional NCAA Division I basketball players with us today. Hoopers are here. They have not only excelled on the court, but have also shown remarkable resilience in managing type 1 diabetes. First, we have Ari Long, a standout guard, renowned for her dynamic play, sharp shooting, tenacity on defense. She's 6 feet tall. Ari hails from California, and she was also a 4-star prospect, ranked the nation's 46th recruit in the 2023 class. She made her mark during her freshman year with the Washington Huskies, appearing in 17 games. Ari is eagerly anticipating joining the Oregon Ducks as a sophomore season. I got my Oregon Ducks green on. And joining her is Isaac Trout, a talented forward from the Creighton University men's basketball team. Standing at 6'10", Isaac has been a key player for the Blue Jays, appearing in 28 games and shooting an impressive 43.6% from beyond the arc. That is very impressive. He gained national attention during March Madness in 2024, leading his team to the Sweet 16 as a top scorer. A native of Grand Island, Nebraska, Isaac is celebrated for his versatility, scoring ability, and defensive prowess. He's also deeply committed to raising awareness about T1D. Please join me in welcoming Ari Long and Isaac Trout. What's up, guys?
Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
We got Hoopers all together. I love this. I am so excited to talk to you both, not only about on the court, but about your journey with T1D. So let's just start with, where did that love for basketball kind of start? Isaac, we'll start with you.
I think a really young age. I was just always playing basketball growing up, and it was kind of what I was always best at compared to the other sports. So I just kind of stuck with it, and then just really fell in love with it at a young age.
What about you, Ari?
Yeah, so my mom and dad were coaches before I was born, so I kind of just grew up in the gym. All my older sisters played, so I kind of just followed in their footsteps and found my own love for it. So I just kept playing, and yeah.
I love that. My personal story was my brother played, my older brother, so I wanted to be like him in any way possible, and that was playing basketball. To this day, he can't beat me. After I got taller and I got better, I'm undefeated. So I love that. We're keeping
Love
record.
that.
Okay, so Ari, I want to ask you, what did you and your family know about T1D when you were diagnosed, and how did you kind of adjust to that new way of life as a basketball player and someone with T1D?
Yeah, so my cousin actually is also a type 1 diabetic, so I knew a tiny bit. I mean, I saw her take injections all the time and knew she had to manage her blood sugar, but that was kind of about it. But yeah, I mean, it was a huge change. It takes a lot of work every day, even now. So, but it's just good that I have the support around me, and I can always call up my cousin if I have any questions. She has a little more experience. So, but yeah.
That's great to have somebody to lean on, especially someone who really knows it and is living it.
Right.
Isaac, how about you? How old were you when you were diagnosed, and what did your family know about T1D?
Yeah, I was 4 years old. We knew nothing about it at all. We didn't really know anyone with it, or yeah, so really nobody. So that was definitely a big learning curve for everybody. My mom kind of took care of me for the first few years because I was so young, I couldn't really do it myself. So definitely grateful for that. But yeah, we didn't know anything.
So 4 years old, when did you start playing basketball? You kind of were trying to figure out T1D and basketball at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. I kind of
Oh.
started playing when I could walk. So yeah, it's been a while.
That's cool. That's awesome. Okay, Ari, you mentioned that support system that you lean on. How have your coaches and teammates and family played a role in supporting you during practice, during games, during your highs and your lows?
Yeah, they're definitely a huge part. They just make things so much easier and just make me a lot more comfortable. Especially with like the lows that can be a little more scary, especially in the middle of practice, and just them being so understanding. Like I might have to step out for a second and treat it and whatnot. But yeah, I think it's important to have that support just because I know, like, no matter what, they know that it's what's best for me and I'll be safe and okay and like not have any crazy thing happen to me. So
Mm-hmm. That safety is always key. That's a big component. Isaac, what about you? I know you mentioned your family didn't know much when you first got diagnosed, but how have you been able to lean on them and your coaches and teammates now?
Yeah, I've just had a really amazing support system for the 16 years that I've had it. It's made it a lot easier than it really is because, I always have them to lean on. But obviously, my parents have been with me every day. But like coaches, trainers within the past few years have really been understanding and accepting of it. So, like she said, if I ever get low during practice or something, there's no problems with that.
Do you guys have snacks on the ready? What's like your go-to snack during practice if you're feeling a low?
I like airheads. That's usually
Oh,
what I'll go for.
okay. An
Yeah.
airhead. I like that. I have to add that to my snack bag. What about you, Isaac?
Um, when I'm playing, I usually do Gatorade or some sort of juice.
Okay.
I find it a little quicker, but like if it's off the floor, Skittles usually is my
Skittle.
go-to. But Airheads are good too, so I might have to get some of those at some point.
All right. Okay. I like this. I like this. I got my fruit snacks here at the ready. That's my go-to.
Nice.
Yep.
Very, very easy, very quick. And a juice box, always. But let's talk about game day. So it's game day. You're getting fired up. One thing I'm also curious about is just the adrenaline that's going through you getting ready for game day. Isaac, we talked about you playing in March Madness. The numbers are probably going on a roller coaster for game day. Isaac, how do you kind of mentally prepare for those big games while also managing your blood sugar levels?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I try to make sure I'm at a steady level throughout the day, especially so I'm not going up and down all over the place. But once it gets to the game, you get the adrenaline and stuff. There's really not much you can do to stop from going high blood sugar. So um, just try to make the most of it, I guess. Some games it's higher than others depending on the level of adrenaline, but I just try to maintain good blood sugars throughout the day to try to minimize that, up and down effect.
Mm-hmm. That's good. All right, what about you?
Yeah, I would say same for me. I try to keep it like at a lower level kind of throughout the day because I know typically when the game comes, I spike. And then at halftime and in timeouts, I just kind of see what I'm at and kind of go from there to try to regulate it and just keep it steady.
And so when you're seeing where you're at during the game, are you pricking your finger? Do you have a CGM, or how are you monitoring that?
Yeah, so I wear a CGM at the Dexcom, so I just check that pretty much anytime I'm out or whenever I can. So
Nice. That's great. What, you too, Isaac?
Yeah, I do the same thing. It's pretty
That's
nice.
a good call. Great
yeah.
call. I got mine on right here. Last time, I play in an old lady league right now. Don't come for me, but I'm old. So I was like feeling low throughout the day, and then I kind of like binged right before. And then that made me crash during. I was cramping. So I was like, okay, we just got to keep it level throughout. I'm going to take your guys' advice because that's some really good prep for game day. Love that. How do you manage, I think going off of this, the pressures that kind of and our anxiety performing when you are getting ready for your athletic but also your academic, because you are still a student athlete. So just that overall managing your diabetes stress levels. How about you, Ari?
I think kind of just knowing that I'm doing the best that I can every day. And, my parents and sisters will often remind me, like, you're doing the best you can, you're fine, even though, we know every day is not going to be perfect. And so, yeah, I think just striving to be the best that I can be and not always for perfection kind of helps just bring me back down and calm me down and just like allow me to go throughout the day, just feeling comfortable and like knowing that it's going to be okay.
Progress over perfection. I'm sure that's on the court as well and off the court with T1D. What about you, Isaac?
Kind of like she said, we have so many expectations with academics, maintaining a good GPA, performing well on the course. So just being type 1 diabetic kind of adds another stress factor to that. So, like she said, really just do your best. There's not much you can control some days. Some days are a lot better than others. So, just kind of controlling what you can control in every single aspect.
Mm-hmm. That's good. When you were growing up, or maybe even now, are there people living with T1D who have inspired you in the sports world or even beyond? Ari, I know you mentioned your cousin, but were there any other people that kind of inspire you?
Yeah, I think you kind of always see big names that have type 1 diabetes, and just kind of seeing those that have done it before you just kind of help you to like just encourage yourself and know that like, people have done it before. It's doable, you can do it. And so I think that just brings me a lot of like just exciting likeness, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, it shows that you're not reinventing the wheel
Yeah.
here. I know it's a sigh of relief for me as well. But Isaac, anyone in the T1D sports community that has been inspiring towards you?
Mark Andrews, tight end for the Ravens. I grew up an Oklahoma football fan, so obviously watched him. And then when I found out he was type 1 diabetic as well, just started following him even more as an inspiration.
That video just recently went viral of him kind of explaining his blood sugar to his teammates. I
Yeah.
felt so seen during that of like, yes, he is doing this at a very high level and also managing his numbers just like the rest of us. So that's awesome. I'm so happy you find inspiration in that. And kind of looking ahead, what are some of your future aspirations, both in terms of your studies and major, but also as an athlete? Isaac, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'd like to play basketball for as long as I can, professionally and things like that. So that'd be nice. But right now, I'm pursuing a degree in finance. So when basketball's done, I want to become a financial planner, financial advisor, or something like that. So try to play basketball as long as I can, but have a plan B if that doesn't work out too.
That's great. All of your teammates who are in the pros with you, you can help them manage their money, and that's
Yeah,
how you
yeah,
can kickstart
exactly.
that. I love that. Well, I'll
Yep.
give you a call too, help you manage mine. But
All right.
Ari, what about you?
Yeah, same as Isaac. I'd like to play basketball for as long as I can as well. And right now, I'm currently undecided in my major, so I'd like to work on figuring that out first and foremost. And then from there, yeah, just seeing where it takes me.
That's awesome. That's what college is for. We're all figuring it out during that time. So Take your time, and you're going to pick something great. I know it. And lastly, what I want to end on, because I think this is so important for people who are watching or who are going to watch this later, some advice that you guys might have for some young T1D athletes who maybe were told that they can't do both. They have to choose one or the other, and T1D is maybe holding them back. What is some advice that you would give to them who aspire to be in college athletics and be a T1D? Ari, let's go with you.
Yeah, I would just let them know that they can do it. I mean, me, Isaac, and many others are living proof. And I just think with the right support system, you can be all that you want to be. Type 1 diabetes does not have to be something that holds you back. It's just another part of your life that makes you unique. So yeah, to just follow your dreams and manage your blood sugar as best as you can, I guess, would be my advice.
I love it. What about you?
I would say that kind of like she said, it can be done. There's been a ton of athletes that have played at the highest level, and it could be worse. We're still able to play basketball with type 1 diabetes. It just have to be more responsible and have a good support system. But overall, anything's possible. And diabetes hasn't held me back, and it won't hold anyone else back as long as they take care of themselves.
I love that. That is so inspirational. They could do it because, just like we said, it shows that you are doing it and they can too. I love that. Okay, as we wrap up, where can people find you on social media? Get your followers up a little bit. Feel free to drop your ats. Isaac, what about you?
My Instagram is just Isaac Trout, and then Twitter or X, I think it's IT Trout or something like that. I'm not really
Twitter,
too active
X.
I'm not really too active on social media, but yeah, that's where I can be found at.
Okay, awesome. Ari?
Yeah, my Instagram is just ari.long, and then my X, I guess, is just AJ Long_14.
It's still so weird. Like, it's always going to be Twitter for me for the forever. Thank you guys so much for chatting with me and sharing your stories. I really appreciate it. Good luck in this off season workouts. Good luck next season. We'll be cheering you on for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, that was so great. I got diagnosed after I graduated college. I played basketball in college, so I just can't imagine being able or having to do that at the exact same time. They are superheroes in the flesh. So thank you, Ari and Isaac, for taking some time and talking with me. I appreciate it. Well, thanks for hanging out with me, all of you guys. That is it for us. A special thank you to our guests for sharing their stories with us tonight. I'd also like to say a special thank you to our sponsors, Abbott, Dexcom, Embecta, Ford, Insulin, Lilly, Marshalls, Medtronic, Novo Nordisk, Sanofi, Tandem, Vertex, Xeris. I always feel like Oprah during that time. You get a car, you get a car. You can learn more about the national partners who make the Type 1 Nation Virtual Summit possible and the latest in technology and T1D management at jdrf.org/TON Summit. And thanks for all of you for joining us this evening. If you haven't already done so, please visit jdrf.org/TON Summit and register for the series because you don't want to miss our next session of 2024 on September 25th. We will be focusing on T1D management, clinical trials, screening, and much more in our Back to Basics session. We all need a back to basics moment once in a while. In the meantime, you can visit jdrf.org/TON Summit to view the previous sessions. Stay tuned for more information on that soon. Thank you all for hanging out with me and have a good rest of your night. See you next time.